every industry is competitive. Margins are being squeezed, costs are going up, customers are more demanding, and it's never been a better time to innovate, because you can innovate process, you can innovate new products, different ways of doing things. So it's quite an advantage, I think, for companies, and you also get to employ folks who might have been overlooked in the workforce a little bit as well. Neurodiverse people tend to have higher unemployment rates. We tend to get fired more from jobs. It's a little tougher, but we're a hidden gem, I think, that can really help a company, especially on the innovation side. Now, it's great about hiring neurodiverse people, but we need to make sure that you're set up for success. You need to set neurodiverse folks up for success, and you need to be set up as co-workers for success as a company too. So we're going to go through some of that, and then we'll have a conclusion, and then some questions. And I'm also going to stick around afterwards. If someone is a little shy and they want to talk to me one-on-one about a neurodiverse issue, happy to have some time, okay, just to talk one-on-one if you're a little shy, ask you a question in front of the audience. So my background, I won't bore you, hopefully, but basically, I've spent most of my time in retail. I worked for Canadian Tire head office downtown at Yonge and Eglinton for about 18 years. I worked in their warehouse in Brampton as a summer student. I worked in customer service. I was a buyer for 10 years and bought sporting goods. I was bicycle buyer, fitness buyer, a whole bunch of stuff. I also went back to school, did an MBA, and then I moved up into the director job there at Canadian Tire. I left and went to a company called Air Miles, or Loyalty One, and did that for about a year as their director of retail. Then I went to Hudson's Bay in the Zellers division. I was a general merchandise manager at Zellers. And my last stop was Sears Canada. I went to Sears Canada before they imploded, and I was GMM and DVP or AVP for Craftsman. So that's what I did. Then I left big retail. I had a real hard time trying to be an executive in retail, in part because of my neurodivergence. I kept hitting my head against a wall, and eventually said, you know what, maybe God is telling me this isn't my career. So I left big retail when I was about 45. I'm 58 now. And did some freelancing for a while at some companies in sales, and then got into teaching. I taught for the last 8 years at a couple of colleges around here. I'm still teaching a little bit. And I do consulting and wrote a book. I'm also sometimes in the media. Whenever something happens, like if Hudson's Bay goes bankrupt or they want to liquidate, they phone up Brucey and say, what do you think? And that's sort of a nice hobby I have on the side too. It's good to have hobbies. And like I mentioned, I'm neurodiverse. I have OCD plus, like Apple Plus or Rona Plus. And what it means is that, my main thing is OCD, but I probably have a side order of a little bit of ADHD and a little bit of autism. And that's something that's very common about neurodiverse people. We normally have a few things mixed together like a cocktail of a few different disorders. And everyone's unique. Every single neurodiverse person is unique in terms of what they have, their challenges and their strengths. I really didn't know what neurodiversity was. I really heard about it from my daughter, who's here with us today, Alyssa, about 2 or 3 years ago. And then I started doing some digging on it and really learned about it. I always knew I was neurodiverse. I had OCD. And I kind of went through life able to deal with my OCD for most of my life. I masked though, and we'll talk a bit more about masking later. Masking is when you fake it. You pretend you're neurotypical because it's easier and you want to fit in with everyone and you think you'll have career success. It can be very exhausting though. Okay, and we'll talk about that later in terms of burnout. But I was able to kind of weave my way through life up until I was in my early 30s. And then we had a couple of young kids at home, and I had a pretty stressful job, and basically fell apart. So I had to go out and get some treatment, and treatment consists of a combination of CBT and cognitive behavioral therapy and medication. And I never looked back. Okay, so happy to share as we go through here any experiences I have, lived experience, to make it real and relatable in terms of neurodiversity. So let's get into it. What is neurodivergence? Has anyone heard about that term before? Is it fairly familiar? I know you're doing some things here. Does anyone know anyone who's neurodiverse or have a family member? Some of you, you know people, right? That's usually the case. People know someone who's neurodiverse. So I got a couple of definitions here we want to talk about. And like I said earlier, I found a couple of definitions that I thought were positive. There's some pretty hardcore clinical definitions that aren't very nice. These are sort of, I think, positive definitions. So the first one is neurodiversity describes the idea that people experience and interact with the world differently. And there is no one right way of thinking, okay? Because I've had that my whole life. People think, why'd you do it this way? Why are you thinking of this way? Right? So you start to think if you're not neurotypical, you're wrong. Well, it's not wrong, you're just different. You're just different, right? So another thing about this that's really important, this definition, is the way we learn, behave. It's not a deficit. It doesn't have to be a deficit. It doesn't have to be a strike against you. It can be an asset. It can be something that can make you strong and give you unique skills. And the other definition, and I got this right from your quiz that you put forth on neurodiversity. Neurodiversity recognized that brain differences, like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette's syndrome, and others, there's lots coming up here, they're natural variations. So some people are tall, some people are short, some people have blue eyes, some people have green eyes, right? That's natural variation. Well, we're introducing the fact that if you're neurodiverse, it's a natural variation too. It's the same thing. And the good thing is it brings unique strengths and perspectives in the world. We need different perspectives, right? If everyone's the same and you're trying to make a decision or innovate, you're going to come up with the same solutions. But if you have different perspectives from different people with different lived experience, you can come up with better solutions. So there's that number I mentioned earlier, which really surprised me a little bit when I saw this. I probably thought that it might have been 5%. I thought, well, maybe there's 5% of the people out there are neurodiverse. So this is a pretty big number, 15 to 20%. So like I said, that means that you probably know someone who's neurodiverse. You might be related to someone who's neurodiverse. You might even be neurodiverse, right?